Welcome to the new moon ceremony. It is an Aries new moon on March 29th of 2025. It is also a solar eclipse. And so we have very exciting things that we get to create in our life, not just in the next 6 months, but also ongoing in the new time that we are in. Now, I wanted to share this quote from the book, The Women Who Run with Wolves. And it says, as long as a woman is forced into believing she is powerless and or is trained to not consciously register what she knows to be true, the feminine impulses and gifts of her psyche continue to be killed off. And now I really love this quote when I read it because it like really felt like it was a summary of everything that I've been going through since February 4th when I started reading The Great Cosmic Mother. And so for reference, this is a YouTube video that you can watch. I recorded it yesterday on Friday because I just all of a sudden felt like you have to say this. And I usually make a reel cover for my lives on Instagram that I also multitask doing Zoom and on Facebook. But I just had this like impulse of like, don't worry about anything, just start talking. And it ended up being 45 minutes. And one of the things that I had mentioned in the last ceremony, which is linked here, is that some of the things that I'm letting go of in the Virgo full moon, where it's a release period, is the need to have everything like perfectly organized on the internet or for my business. And so the 45-minute video that, or maybe it was even longer than 45 minutes, was really amazing to me because I watched it back and I was like, wow, like you really covered everything that you wanted to cover and then things that you didn't even know that you wanted to cover. And it all came out really seamlessly. And I didn't feel any stress around time. So that was really awesome for me. And I'm sharing this with you because part of the quote that I just shared is that we're in an age where the technology is already creating new belief systems within ourselves. And that's what I talked about in the video yesterday, that we're not, the algorithm on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, whatever, the algorithms are not being completely built by us. They're not totally being built by our conversations that the devices are listening to, or the things that we buy, or the things that we look at. The algorithm is not entirely built by our own energy. The algorithm is also being built, or the algorithm is also creating the new belief system that's going to be the foundation with Pluto in Aquarius for 20 years, which when Pluto has these really long transits around the zodiac wheel, and it's a building of civilization and then a collapsing of civilization to then build a new one. So we're in the building of a new civilization in Aquarius, which is the energy above Pisces. And so I see it as, that you have this canister of water that's flowing into Pisces. And this is something that an interpretation that I believe I heard from Allie, the cosmic space witch. It could have been from another astrologer, but when I heard it, it made perfect sense to me, especially as the sun sign in Pisces. That if Pisces is two fish and two can mean duality, then it makes sense that above duality is energy that gives us perspective. And so, as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, and the age of Aquarius being heavily influenced by technology, this is the thing that, like, I feel like we're up against as the peaceful warrior. I'm an Aries rising. And so when we really understand what is going on in the relationship with technology, and that the algorithm is basically the artificial intelligence, it is the fake God, the Yahweh God that I talked about in the Virgo full moon, which in order for the Yahweh God of the Old Testament to establish itself, whether it was an actual being or if it was an archetype of the current transits that were going on at that time, that then men personified, either way, if it was a real being or if it was an archetype, whatever, in order for the Yahweh established to establish the new world order of a centralized agency of a monotheistic religion of only one God, and it's male and it's outside your body. And if you don't believe in this male God, you're going to go to hell. And that hell and devil was also called the left hand path, which the left side of the body is feminine. It makes so much sense for us to really put our effort into getting back into our intuition, especially as women. So this is incredibly important to me because before I educated myself with this book about the patriarchal religions that are the basis for our capitalism, our war mentality, and our hierarchies in society, like poverty and racism. Once I got that information that that's what our society is built on, then it really made sense what my natal chart is and what I'm here to do. And I'm going to share with you some of my placements just to help you have some context to how you can work with the moon to manifest something and release something, manifest and release, so that you can really grow and evolve into the woman that you know in your heart you are meant to be, especially at this time. So I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of stuff, and I'm going to kind of weave in and out of different themes. But the overall gist of it is that, especially with this new moon in Aries, that we get to prepare for the conjunction, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. That's going to happen on February 26th of 2020. The last time we had this conjunction in 0 degrees Aries was in 1524, when there was colonization and the witch hunts. And the witch hunts, nobody was a witch. They were intuitive women. They knew how to work with the plants. They were midwives. There was so much around them they were the intuitive force of humanity that helped keep humanity together and helped it evolve. And so in order for the new world order of this external one God, centralized power based on genocide, um, when we had this conjunction of a very masculine planet of Saturn and a very feminine planet of Neptune meet at the beginning of time at 0 degrees Aries, this was colonization. And if you did not submit to Christianity, you were killed. So it's a very important time for us to really zoom out and notice that this is a time of creating belief, because belief is what creates the structures in society. And so I'm going to be bringing this into your body of how to align your thoughts and your feelings to take aligned action. But the larger part of it is that when we're organized with our own energy and our body, then our body is acting as an energetic conductor. And we're going to help influence belief, not in a self-seeking belief that people need to believe what we need to believe, but the belief in our own intuition and not relinquishing it to the devices, really, because how the algorithms are designed is to cull, not cull, not like culling the herd, but like move the herd, move us into different little groups of people, little factions, so that we're in an echo chamber and we won't be able to relate to other people who don't believe the same thing. Belief is what creates our reality. And we get to, especially at this Aries new moon, we really get to plan strategically for what we want to create for ourselves in the new era in February 20th, 2026, and then also for humanity. So this is a really big deal, and I'm really excited about it. And I cannot wait to share with you everything in this PDF or this ceremony. Okay, so this is the new moon, March 29th, and we have a solar eclipse. So as you can see, I have a line that runs where the sun is, and the axis of where the sun is in Aries is Libra. This is relationships, and Libra are the scales. And so there are many different interpretations of these archetypes of the zodiac. And so I have heard, and I really love the idea that even though Mars and Aries is the god of war, the war is actually in Libra because we're trying to balance these scales. And this is the last eclipse on the Aries Libra axis. It's been over a year and a half of these eclipses in this time frame. And when I found out that we were in the North Node Aries and the South Node of Libra at the beginning of the last nodal shift, I was so excited because I was like, this is my time. I'm an Aries rising. This is a Libra moon. I am going to be so thoughtful in every single thing that I do. And I was really happy that I did that because it paid off. And some of the things I just want to share with you for context that um, it said that if you look back 18 years prior to wherever the nodes are, at the last time the nodes were in that placement, you can really get a good understanding of like really what you've grown through. And so for the Aries Libra axis of the eclipses, the 18 months prior to that was when I met Ron Fletcher and when I was learning Pilates and when I had a very strong belief in myself that I could do anything. And I had lost that. And so when I saw the nodes and I referenced who I was back then and the amount of belief I had and what I was doing in my body, I was like, okay, how can I really create that again? How can I find that belief again? And part of what happened during the later end of the nodes of Aries and Libra is I started doing heels dancing where it was like super sexy dancing. And I generally have not liked being a woman, and I've even worn sports bras to smash down my breast. I just didn't like the feminine figure. I wanted to be more athletic. I felt more comfortable like that. And the dancing really allowed me to orient myself with my North Node, which is Cancer, which is a very feminine energy. So, all of this together, I was purposeful in what I was doing in my life to match the energy so that I could grow and evolve. And this is something that I want to share with you because anybody can do this. And if you're a woman and you are still menstruating, you have an incredible opportunity to work with the energetics of the earth on a cellular biological level, as well as the electromagnetic level because of the earth's core, in addition to the archetypes intelligence that are in the cosmos. So this is really incredible, and I'm really happy to share this with you. And I also have an arrow that the moon is also in Aries right now, and that's that eclipse factor. So this is the energy we're working with, and this is the energy of identity and individuation from the internal war. And I woke up on Friday feeling at peace. And I was really thinking like, am I imagining this? Because I really don't know. I really don't think that I have experienced peace and relaxation in my body at this level. It's almost a little bizarre. It's a little bit foreign, but I'm like so happy because when I'm observing it, I'm like, wow, I don't have a lot of talk going on in my head. I don't feel like I'm behind. I don't feel like I'm rushed. I don't feel stressed. I feel like I can really trust myself in what I'm going to share with this moon ceremony. So I was a little stressed for the first one. And I completed these slides like up until the time of ceremony. So I'm like, wow, this is like really nice. And my Libra placements, I have a whole stellium of planets in Libra and planets that are in retrograde. So I have very much looking back, looking at the cycles, looking at history, wanting to learn from it, and so much energy in Libra to really help me individuate. And it makes a lot of sense for my whole life path. And so, what I want to share with you about that is that if you think about the scales, that there's, a right and a left to it, you can really look at it as you're going to individuate from wherever it is that you are holding a polarized consciousness. And something that I love in attachment theory when we're doing the inner child work, especially when we're focusing on the ages of 0 to 3, where we have attachment trauma, where our nervous system is looking to sense another nervous system to let us know if the environment is safe. And when we lose connection, either emotional or physical connection from our caregivers at that 0 to 3, that's when we really start to develop the black and white mindset, this or that, right or wrong. Because what happens at that level and ongoing, right? So, like, if there's a lot of emotional disconnect from your caregiver, 0 to 3, you're probably going to have a lot of emotional disconnect going on, right? So, when we look at this as a pattern and as a cycle that repeats itself, that if we're developing a this or that, right or wrong mindset in our ages of 0 to 3, that's forming our identity at the unconscious level, because in 0 to 3, we don't have context outside of our physical body. We don't have life experience as a 40-plus-year-old to be like, oh, yeah, the first love, broken heart, man. Oh, yeah, when that happens. Oh, yeah, when you run out of money and you need to pay rent. Oh, yeah. Like, there's no context for the emotional sensations in the body when there is attachment trauma. When nervous system to nervous system, the baby finds out, oh my God, I'm all alone. Where's my caregiver? That's primal fear. I'm going to die if I don't have another nervous system taking care of me. And then the emotional disconnect. I'm here with my parent. I can feel their body, but they don't see me. They're not looking at me. They're not paying attention to me. They're not making me feel better. They're not giving me a hug while I'm crying. So we develop the black and white mindset, and what it does for us is it helps us navigate for survival versus um, having a nice nurturing environment where our needs are met. Then we can feel a little bit more safety to take risks when we're getting older. And before you go down a rabbit hole of thinking, oh, I wish I had a perfect environment, if we had perfect environments as a kid, there would have been nothing for us to grow into, nothing for us to create our values as an adult if we didn't have those voids. So don't worry if you feel like you're missing out because maybe you had, quite a bit of attachment trauma. And the beginning of your life consciousness transit around the zodiac until the death in Pisces of 2026. This is so dramatic. So, the Aries new moon, Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. So, this is the first new moon that we get to plant seeds for an entire of for the sun's entire trip around the zodiac, which ends in Pisces. And the Pisces is winter, technically. If you're not using the Gregorian calendar, that is not unified with the earth. Pisces season is when we're all emotional because this is the death before the new birth. And dying before the new birth was something that when we had the matriarchy and it was an egalitarian society without any hierarchies, we were always aware of the triple goddess energy, that there is a birth, there is life, and there is death over and over and over again in the 28-day cycle of the moon and the 28-day cycle of the menses. And so this new moon in Aries, we're also not just, focused on the 6-month harvest in October with the Aries full moon, but we're really looking at this as in the next 12 months, what do I want to experience? Especially with these transpersonal planets moving in the zodiac, it's going to be a really big year of change. And from my perspective, if the planets are moving out of zodiac signs that we're energizing our current society's structures, it makes sense that the structures are falling apart. Which two things happening? Number one, the powers that want to be are scrambling to get control. You can think of it as the algorithm. They're controlling us through the algorithm. And then also, if we women get back in our bodies, reconnect with our menses, reconnect with the moon, we will actually be able to energetically combat, go to war with this energy. So it's a really important time to be alive and be a woman. The 6 month cycle is so great because we are seeding ideas and manifestations for the harvest on October 6th of 2025 with the Aries full moon. So what we're going to be looking at is, or like what I want you to be thinking about is, where do you see yourself in 6 months in any area of life? Like, what do you really desire for yourself? Because that's the intention that you can set. And then with the upcoming full moons and new moons, you're going to have these ebbs and flows of death periods where you're going to be letting go of old behaviors, old identities, and then growth periods that are leading up into growth periods leading up into the full moon harvest that we're going to have. We're going to have a bunch of full moons in between now and October. And then where we are really for like thinking, what do I want to create with the new moons, to where we have time where we've got a couple of weeks after each new moon where we get to like really put things into action to like build that momentum. And that's something that we're going to do in the PHAT Life. The PHAT Life is my signature offer. It is my life's work of 24 years in fitness, and every tool that was the highest payoff that I used for my mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical transformations, because I've had transformations on all four of those bodies. And so I'll share with you how I'm going to help you through that if you want to work together in between the moons, to really make sure that you are manifesting, nurturing, and releasing what you need to release. So the eclipse is the last of the Aries Libra axis, but the story isn't complete until October's full moon. So I talked about the eclipse a little bit. Like a solar eclipse is like a becoming, a quick becoming. A lunar eclipse is like a quick release when we're looking at it from the spiritual perspective. And so this Aries Libra new moon plus the eclipse, it's like lightning speed. You can really step into a new identity. And I'm like thinking about this because I was thinking about this yesterday because I thought, God, I feel so good. What was going on? And I'll show you a tracker that I created of a spreadsheet at the end of this presentation, or towards the end of this presentation, to show you like what was happening in the last 2 to 3 weeks that allowed me to essentially channel this energy and step into it to feel like a totally different person overnight. Like from Thursday to Friday morning, I was like, what just happened? This is crazy. So I'll show you that. This is once in a lifetime energy of fate, destiny, and karma. And the reason why is because Neptune is also moving into Aries. None of us have ever experienced Neptune in Aries. The last time it was there was in 1861 during the Civil War. So this is big energy. And not only was it during the Civil War, it also was during a time of spiritual stuff. Um, a lot of snake oil salesman type spiritual stuff. So we did have the dueling energies of war and spirituality. We'll get into that again, get a little later. So Neptune is moving into Aries on March 30th. It's going to have a little bit of a retrograde back into Pisces, but then when it stations direct again in Aries, it's going to be there until 2038. And I don't want to scare you, but war is associated with this placement of Neptune in Aries. And for me, that makes so much sense of how activated I am, because I have been so sad and so angry about what's going on in the Fertile Crescent. But when I found out the basis of that land, that it was started to create Yahweh, the Old Testament God, that it was started on the genocide of Asherah's people, I was like, oh my gosh, of course this makes sense of like why I have these feelings. And now I feel like I'm past a lot of the mourning and anger and sadness and fear around it. And I'm like, okay, like what can I do? How do I play my part in this? Also, what's happening with Aries with the zodiac right now is there is a stellium in Pisces. So a stellium is when there are three or more planets in a zodiac sign, and we have a lot of signs in Pisces right now, including the asteroid Psyche. And Allie, the cosmic space witch, I really love her because she also includes asteroids, which play a big role in the energy of the planets. We often don't think about the asteroids, but Psyche, this is like the basis of your consciousness. It's conjunct with Venus, and Venus is love and growth and abundance. And so, this is really creating an amazing opportunity for us to really evolve our soul, for us to really pop out of being a human and be like, wow, like we have all these planets moving. We believe in astrology. We use our human design. We're caring people. We want to listen to our body so that we could take aligned action with the right diet and exercise habits for our health or the aesthetic. And so it's like, this is just such exponential potential right now to work with. And when we're closing out we're closing out Neptune's transit through Pisces, and the transit with Neptune is 165 years, I think is what it is. So this is a big transit that we're closing. And Pisces has a lot of pain and suffering and duality. And this is where we get to create that wisdom. And so it's almost like for us, we've been in this spiritual initiation, having Neptune in Pisces, and everything that we've learned and grown through and experienced with Neptune moving into Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, the fire starter, the initiator, the house of identity. Now it's all of a sudden like, well, if we learned this, and this, now, now what? What am I going to put into action? So it's a very, very great time to be alive. And the spiritual practice and mysticism during Neptune's transit. So this is something that is that you're going to want to cultivate for yourself of like what gives you the sense of connection between spirit and between matter. How do you actually fuse the two together? Because the division of the two is what was the basis of the monotheistic religions, to where earth was the lowly, sinful plane, the left hand path of femininity. And all of our focus was supposed to be on being pure and holy so that we can get to heaven. And something that I've noticed in that ideology that first formed with the Abrahamic religions to now in the spiritual space, and I myself have said this, that though we're saying this statement of this is a hologram, this is the place, this is the dimension where we get to expand our soul, this is where we learn how to work with energy, and it is said in a certain way that I believe is to repress or suppress the emotions that we're having watching suffering, watching the atrocities. And it's a way for us to not actually feel it. And the reason why I think this is because, I listened to Abraham Hicks. I got to the internet at a time where it was mostly sharing inspirational quotes. And when I would, read books or listen to things about abundance, that you're a limitless being, there's no limitation. I'm like, yeah, but racism. Yeah, but poverty. Yeah, but war. Make it make sense. And I feel like on the other side of knowing what the deep lie was, 2 to 4,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or however long it was when the Old Testament was formed, that fighting against that, this internal, like back to the quote at the beginning of the slides, this internal intuition of knowing about something, like knowing, like something's just not right. But then suppressing that feeling with you're limitless, just think positive, don't focus on the negative. Because I'm on the other side of it, I definitely feel like, okay, this is probably why I feel peaceful, because there was a bad guy. There was an instance in society that shifted the dynamic. There is a reason for the hierarchies and war and poverty. This is not the natural state. And so knowing that, I was like, I've been right this whole time. Every time I said, what about, what about, what about? And people just said, you're negative, you're dramatic. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. So, so now it's like, okay, if Neptune is going to be in Aries and I'm an Aries rising, I know my place in the battle now. And so I think that might be why I'm feeling so calm and centered. And I gave you my chart here of the transit of when the eclipse was at 3:44 in the morning on March 29th, just so you can kind of get some context of like, here's my rising of my identity. And then here are all the planets that are affecting that area. And so this really helps us make a lot of sense, right? And give context to this. And one of the things that we want to think about is that Aries is the underdeveloped consciousness that acts on instinct. And while this is great that we're able to blaze our own trail, and wherever Aries falls in your house, that's where you're going to be able to have this new moon energy, like wherever Aries is on your chart. Um, but it is also about identity. And so there are, you can kind of reflect on like, where are you reactionary? Where like I feel like for a lot of my stuff, acting on instinct has gone well. Like I announced doing these moon ceremonies before I had anything planned, but I knew reading the book that the moon was important with women and intuition and psychic and pace, blah, 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 all the things. I was like, I have to do this. If I believe what I say I believe, I have to do this now that I know the significance of it. So I acted on it and I trusted. But there's also some things that, like, if you get like an instinct, really like try to check in for a second of like, is this an instinctual feeling that is going to add to growth and evolution? Or is this something where I'm cutting my nose off despite my face? You want to like, check in with that. Chiron and Aries through 2027. I cried last week looking at this placement because I was like, fuck, this is so hard. My Chiron is in Taurus, and that has to do with the body. And with Chiron and Aries, because Aries is the god of war, because this is the initiator, reactionary fire, wherever we're wounded, this is where we're going to lash out. And we still have 2 more years of working with this energy. And I'm sure I'll have reactionary stages, but like just for context, like I used to like be so short fused, um, being irritated with the dogs, like yelling at the dogs. And I love my dogs so much, and I'd be so mad at them because they'd be, crazy for something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. I remember being reactionary with this Aries Chiron energy, and now I'm like, they're a dog. Dogs are going to be dogs. So you can really look at like with the Chiron, if you don't know, your Chiron is the wounded healer. And so this is the lifelong wound that we are always going to be dealing with in some way. But the thing is that because this is our wounded healer aspect of ourselves, this is actually where this is what we teach people, because this is our embodied intuition, our embodied knowingness. So for Chiron, with my placement in Taurus, with my neck problems, with my inflammation, the chronic pain, like asthma, like all these things, it makes so much sense of why I chose fitness without knowing this about myself with the Chiron. But as a fitness professional, there are things that I learned in a book, but a lot of it was trial and error on my own body to figure out like, okay, if I do such and such shoulder exercise, that move triggers my neck spasm. Okay, we're not doing that. However, eventually I want to do that one day. So let me go look at an anatomy chart and see what muscles are the ones that are spasming, and then figure out what exercises I should do to strengthen and stretch them so that they are in a good place, so that when I do this exercise, eventually I won't have a flare. And so I've done a lot of that for myself. So the Chiron placement gives us a sense of our embodied wisdom that we can really share with people. And not only does this help us with our feminine leadership, with our businesses, but also it makes us magnetic. This is the thing that draws people to us. So our relationships get richer, the life experience gets richer, because this is like people can feel like, hey, healer, healer, this one feels good. So it's really great to think about. And you could look at where your Chiron is, but also just knowing that this reactive, volatile energy in Aries that you see in the collective, that you see in the structures and the political powers that are fighting, and you can see it with people, you can see it with yourself. It's that. So anytime you feel this crazy charge of aggression, you'd be like, whoa, Chiron, what am I actually sad about? And learning to check in with yourself from feeling anger to reminding yourself, parenting yourself in the moment, that anger is always the emotion that covers sadness. So when you feel yourself get angry, the real question is, what am I sad about? And then that's what helps us balance those scales so that we can be the peaceful warrior. Another thing to think about is that there are selfish aspects of Aries because it is the very beginning. So it's a little baby consciousness that just sees itself as the most important thing, very childlike, which a child should be expecting everything to revolve around it because it can't walk, it can't change itself, it can't feed itself. So you can think of this Aries consciousness as where you're really immature, where you can be selfish. And how we check in with that is to think about the axis of Libra. And there's so many different ways to look at this archetypal intelligence, this primordial energy that is defined by these zodiac placements. So Libra can be like, you can see like it's a lot of feminine energy. You see a lot of, women in flowing dresses holding the scales. But if you look at the scales as two, as trying to balance something out, when you're feeling these things that I've talked about all in the Aries energy, especially the volatile aspect of it, the lashing out aspect of it, we can really see like, if I'm lashing out, what am I sad about? So what's on the other side of Aries? What relationships? Oh, the relationship and humanity. Oh, the relationship with the world powers and humanity. Oh, my relationship, or oh, my relationship with food, my relationship with my body. You'll really be able to be pragmatic in reparenting yourself, talking to yourself in a positive way when you're feeling these emotions. And that's something that you always want to be thinking about when you're on that inner child path, that the whole goal of the inner child work is not to constantly be going back to your inner childhood. The goal of inner child work is that you get your nervous system regulated so that you are you're present to the current energy that you're in. You are present to your intuition, you are present to your instincts, you are present to your triggers. The goal of inner child work is presence. And the more you get present to your own body, then you'll have more of that space to have that impulse feeling happen, and then be like, hold the phone. What's going on in the cosmos? What's the axis? What can I tap into? Because really these charts are giving us some information of um, why we're experiencing things, because as above, so below. And if you or went to a Christian school like I did, we were told that astrology was evil. So it makes sense why these things were omitted from society, because if every woman across the world right now was having a conversation like this around the movement of the planets, there would be no power dynamic, because we would be influencing people in the community. We wouldn't be reactive. We wouldn't be falling into the lies. So that's something that you want to think about, especially because these are spiritual themes with Neptune getting put into action with Neptune moving into Aries. Okay. So I said this a little bit before, that Neptune, the last time that it was in Aries was during the time of the Civil War. And Allie, the Cosmic Space Witch, talks about snake oil spirituality, where at this time in the like 1860s, that people were doing seances and saying like, oh, I'll channel your deceased loved one. And she's like, no, they probably weren't. They were probably channeling some lower octave being pretending to be somebody's family member. And there's something really interesting that happened in 2020, and I fell for this. I'm so embarrassed now. But the Lionsgate portal, the 88 Lionsgate portal, the astrology math does not add up. And the Lionsgate portal only became popular in 2020. And that is something where we can look at of like, is that really spirituality? Because it doesn't make sense on the chart. It only appeared in 2020 when we went into lockdown. And a lot of people use it to say, oh, the 8-8 portal, come and then you'll manifest and all your dreams will come true. So it's very, it's a good thing to be aware of, especially because it's going to come again in August. And the other thing that I want to share from my own belief system with the Fertile Crescent and the One, that the Fertile Crescent is where the current genocide is happening. And I'm Jewish. Well, okay, I have Jewish blood. I have Arabic blood. I have, I'm going to say Italian blood, but for me, the Italian blood is where I got the Arabic blood from, and how the Catholic Church came and squashed the intuition and called us witches. So for me, I'm like, no wonder like I have been going through so much the last couple of months, because I feel like my blood has been boiling. My blood has been remembering. And when when I Googled, images for the Old Testament and Asherah, this is what came up. So if you remember in the book of Deuteronomy, Yahweh instructs everybody to go everywhere, go into the hills, go into the trees, go into the temples, chop down the trees, burn the temples, burn the books, kill the people who were believing in the God before him. And the God before him was Asherah. And in the goddess religion that was over 300,000 years in existence before the patriarchal Abrahamic religions of a male external deity, before then, it was decentralized. The goddess experience was based on the culture and the context. So the culture of the people, wherever they were in the environment of the earth, that gave the goddess context. And the goddess is just about birth, life, death, a continual cycle, the wheel of time. And if you think about this as far as looking at the New World Order, which they say, there are magazine articles about the New World Order. It's talked about, like it's not something that's just the tinfoil hat idea anymore. It's more mainstream. And so when we're looking at that in the context of, oh, we're afraid of the New World Order now, but actually the original New World Order that has been ordering the whole world was formed with one God. And the problem with this one God, as you know, is that there's actually three: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And if you don't believe in that one God, you're dead. So this is very important for us to like really get back to ourselves, especially with our blood, because our blood is carrying all of this information on a cellular level. And so this is also something that we want to be thinking about, that this is representative of war. This is representative of control with spirituality, of saying something's going to happen, or that you're a spiritual type person that's going to solve problems when you're really not. And then also what the overarching theme of is with this change of society, especially with this Neptune and Saturn conjunction. Because the last time it was 0 degrees Aries was during colonization, and we know what happened then. So, what is this one going to bring us? And the goal is decentralize the power. The power is going through the phones, through the algorithms. Decentralize it by bringing the power back into our bodies with our intuition. Okay, so this, Allie pulled this up. And Bill Gates says AI will replace doctors, teachers within 10 years and claims humans won't be needed for most things. So this is a problem. And the more we, give the devices our consciousness, the more we are walking ourselves into this. And one, spirit and matter are one. That was the one. So, like, when people talk about how there's only one God, God is everything, good and bad, one. The original one of the goddess religion was spirit and matter are one. They are not different. They have different attributes. They have different vibrational levels of what you can see with your eyes than what is ultraviolet that you can't see with your eyes, or what is vibrating so high that it is light, what is vibrating so low that it is a material form. And so I kind of said this on the other slide, so just I won't go into it too much, but like taking our power back by getting reconnected with our intuition. That's what the goal is. And so I'm going to show you how we're going to be able to do that. For the breath work, we're not going to record it because I'll get flagged on YouTube. But here is the song that we are going to be listening to as we do this. We're going to do brain and heart coherency breathing. And brain and heart coherency breathing is from Heart Math Institute. They measured the frequency of emotions. And so, what's going to happen with this practice is your heart and your brain get in sync, spirit and matter together. One. We are going to create the one within your body. And we're doing that by imagining, based on a feeling of love, joy, appreciation, kindness, care. We're going to breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, because that tells the physical heart it is safe. What's going to happen is the energy in your body is going to shift. You're going to be vibrating at whatever emotion it is that's in this positive imagination. So your heart is feeling a feeling, your brain is imagining a reality. Those two are in sync. Your energy changes. What will happen is you will start to shift the energy in your life experience. And also, you are going to create contrast with your unconscious energy that is not love, joy, appreciation, kindness, care. And this is a training module in the PHAT Life. And the reason why it's there is because this cuts through the noise. Just like looking at your natal chart cuts through the noise of your inner child work to try to get to those repressed emotions faster. This cuts through the energetic noise because you are, on one hand, creating with the energy, and on the other hand, you are making your unconscious available for processing because there's going to be a contrast. So we're going to do that. I'm going to press pause on the recording. We're going to do the breath, and then we'll come back, record, and do the rest of the ceremony. And so if you are watching the replay, pull this song up, press pause, and do the breathing with us. Okay. I love that song. I love that we're the ones that we've been waiting for. So this is really good. Okay. Okay, so the Aries cycle, as you know, this is a 6-month culmination harvest on October 6th of 2025. And this is initiating your next level identity. This is releasing past roles, masks, survival patterns. This is birthing leadership through embodiment and bold authenticity. This is the matriarchy coming back. Welcome home, ladies. Okay. So here are some things for you to think about for planting the identity, who you are now. So, not 10 years ago, not the traumas that you're trying to get over, not the frozen inner child emotions, not the failures, not the setbacks. Who are you going to be now after being at the bottom of the Pisces tail? And so the constellation of Pisces is really big. And as you know, there's fish. And some of the placements are at the very bottom. There's a star at the very bottom of the tail. And that's part of the energy that we're dealing with. So we're in we're leaving kind of like very deep energy. And what are you individuating from? For me, especially because of the full moon in Virgo, which Virgo is creating the things. It's the tangible earth goddess. And my Chiron in Taurus is also in the second house for me. And the second house has to do with house and finances and resources. And so one of the things that I have had that I'm realizing just in this last moon cycle, basically, is that I have still been having so many limiting beliefs because I have been using money as evidence that I am valuable. And I was listening to Stephanie Ann Houston. I was in a couple of her containers years ago, and I was re listening to something. And she said, people want what you have. You have something that people want. And she started rattling off a bunch of examples. So then I wrote down, oh, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical transformations. I've done all four. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I stopped seeing the value. I stopped seeing myself as valuable because I have not been able to, package it together and market it in a way that was bringing me an overflow of money. I have my one-on-one sessions and that works really well, but I want to do something that's on a more holistic level, which is why I created the PHAT Life. But recently in this period between the full moon in Virgo and this new moon, I was like, okay, like I need to trust my intuition. I need to trust myself. I need to trust my human design. I need to trust that I'm here at the right time. And I need to just start saying what it is that I want to say. And that release has really helped me. So I feel like I have individuated from the money story. And so what are you individuating from? Like with all of this information that I'm sharing with you in this presentation, like what duality are you leaving so that you can be a peaceful warrior? You can be strategic and you can make great change, but you're not going to go around killing a bunch of people and attacking a bunch of people, right? How are you the peaceful warrior? So these are the top placements that I really focus on. So the Chiron, which is what makes you magnetic. This is the thing where you are the wounded healer. You're going to deal with this wound your whole life. I deal with body issues still. And I thought that I was going to heal my body issues and never have any problem. And I would get really hard on myself if I had a headache, even. I was so hard on myself. And so your Chiron, this is where you really get to embody your wisdom. Your Lilith is where you think outside the box. Your Lilith is part of the archetypal energy around Lilith is thinking outside the box and wanting to be equal with Adam is what got her banished from the garden. There's a lot of different stories around it, but basically this is your other feeling where you're afraid to be yourself. Your North Node, this is where you get to grow into who you are becoming in this lifetime. So anything that is not in alignment with the North Node, it's a no. And I think about this as like if your North Node is like your North Star, your guiding light. And I really love the show, The Wheel of Time. And sometimes they'll say, light, give me strength. And I'm like, light, give me strength. I'm like, oh, I like that. And I'm like, ooh, I don't like that because it's just saying light. It's still not including the other half, which is darkness slash matter. I'm like, this is still a problem. And I was like, wait a minute, no, because the North Node is your guiding light. So light, give me strength. Help me, stay on my path. And then, of course, you have your rising, your sun, and your moon. And I feel like your rising, the sun, and the moon is our triple goddess access. where we are birthing, where we are living our life, and where we are the crone. And the wisdom in our moon, the deep, deep unconscious, is like our crone energy. We can like pull from it at any time. This is the sage, wise woman. And the sun sign is the mother energy, where we're out here creating. And the rising is the spark, the birth energy. And so you can really look at your placements to say, like, how would I be with the big three representing the goddess? You know, because the goddess is for everybody. The goddess is the overarching one of spirit and matter, of the cosmos and the earth. And the goddess is also the cycles in life of birth, life, and death. The goddess is also the feminine woman because of her cycles with the menses. So goddess is for everyone. And then your energy type, your profile, and your authority. This was really a really important way that I was able to create my lifestyle around my dream body, because we can't like just put, you know, certain strict diet and exercise habits for 3 months to get to an outcome and not change anything in our life and expect that at the end of those 3 months, if we get results. We probably won't, because that's like such a sharp time frame that triggers sabotage. But if you say you did get your results in 3 months and you didn't change anything in your lifestyle, and you think because you got the results that now, okay, the work is over, I can relax and go back to how everything was before, the results get undone. And so when we look at our energy type, our profile and authority, it really helps us make decisions with our diet and our exercise and our lifestyle to set it up in a way that makes sense for us. So like there was a lot of deconditioning that I had to do for myself, because as a fitness person, you're like, no, you're supposed to wake up early and you work out first thing in the morning. And I used to work out first thing in the morning, which a lot of times meant 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30 in the morning. If I was going to do the thing and work out before a client at, you know, 6 or 7 in the morning. And so there was just a lot of stuff that like didn't make sense for my lifestyle. If I'm training clients in the morning, I am not going to be working out in the middle of the night, because that's technically my first thing in the morning. So that's just like an example of like how we might be putting on ways of doing things that make sense for a lot of people. Like if you work 10 to 7, you'd probably want to work out in the morning, because maybe by the time 7 o'clock at the end of your shift hits, you're like, oh, there's no way I'm going to go exert myself. I'm tired. I want to eat. I want to put my feet up. I want to cuddle with my dog, with my cat. So there's things that you can really look at in your human design that's going to help you plant these seeds so that you can nurture and prune and harvest. All of these are modules that are in the PHAT Life, the containers, and I'll show you them a little bit later. Oh, wait. Oh, nurture and prune. Okay. So there's going to be a couple slides about the modules here. I forgot that that's how I organize this. So when you're nurturing and you're pruning, that means that you are nurturing these seeds that we're planting for the next 6 months, and you are pruning. You are removing things that are not going to fit into that identity and lifestyle. So that means that you're going to be working with the new moons and the full moons to prune in the release phase, and the new moons to kind of fertilize what you're planting right now with this new moon in Aries. So manifestation through eating and exercise. This is a module inside the PHAT Life. And what I teach you here is how your thoughts and your feelings and your actions create your reality. And when you use eating and exercise as a place to put your actions, your thoughts and your feelings that are in alignment with where you want to go in this new identity, when you put the thoughts and feelings into the actions of diet and exercise, you're manifesting. And we want to manifest, right? We want to create something. And so when you apply the laws of the universe with thoughts and feelings into the action of eating and exercise, you're taking aligned action. And so this is the first place. It's kind of like training wheels for as you get wiser in your experience of energy and your intuition, and creating with the moon and creating with your natal chart and creating with your inner child voids. This is like the training wheels that will make you being a cosmic mystic creatrix way easier, because you're using the diet and the exercise, the food and the exercise habits to um, practice aligned action. These modules are what help us get to these emotions. You're either doing moderation, where you're learning to let go of the control with food, allowing yourself to eat whatever it is that you want to eat, doing conscious binges where you don't fight the urge to binge. You go into it with a journal so that you can be present to the emotions that you're having. Because a binge is the cycle of abuse with the voices in your head at different phases of the binge, the before, the during, and the after. And that tells us so much about the childhood conditioning so that you can unpack it. The inner child repressed emotions in your body. This is where your body is really storing your belief systems. Your body is storing the energy. Your eating and your food is where you can where you see the reactions of your energy. So what I did is, and this is the best way to explain it, what I did is, after I learned about the repressed emotions in the body that caused the psychosomatic injury in my neck, and that we can heal our body with Louise Hay, where we look up a body part and its dysfunction and what the spiritual meaning of that is. And there's lots of other books and stuff to understand how your body is holding this energy. But what I realized after I got my body to neutral, after I was healthy, when I was like, had long periods of not having flares, I was like, well, what do I want next? I want to get hot. I want to have an hourglass figure. I want to have a six pack. I wanted these certain aesthetic things. So what I started to do was I would look at myself in the mirror naked and pick out the body parts that I didn't like. And then I looked up the spiritual meanings of them, because I was like, if it works to get out of pain, it's going to work to grow. And so in the inner child repressed emotion module, we're doing mirror work where we're really analyzing body parts, and I teach you how to break them down and how to find the meanings, and then how to change the energy. The exercise portion, there are alignment exercises. There's 3 videos. What happens is you're very focused on fulcrums, and when your joints, when your shoulders and your hips know how they work together in opposition, and how the energy transfers through your spine and all these different diagonal muscles that allow you to rotate, that cleans up your posture. And then it also makes whatever type of athletic things that you want to do, like if you want to do squats or deadlifts or cleans or pull-ups or rock climbing, it makes all these things a lot easier on your body because your body's in alignment. And since your body stores energy, aka your intuition, when you are so focused on doing these alignment exercises correctly, you have to pay attention to your body. So it's a way for you to tune in and create a communication with your intuition, because you may be working your hip and all of a sudden a memory pop up, or a mystic visual pops up, an archetypal intelligence pops up in your head that gives you peace or gives you understanding. And so the alignment exercises help you with your physical body now, which has a whole bunch of payoffs, but it also is the time and space to actually listen to your intuition. Because then what will happen is when you encounter stress in daily life, if your knee hurts for a split second, you're like, what the hell is that? And then you can do a little check-in. What environment I'm in? Do I like this? Do I like the smell? Do I like the temperature? Like, your body's going to tell you yes or no scenarios, and we're just not used to the language of the body. So it gives you that uh, connection time. You also have corrective bodybuilding, and bodybuilding done right is corrective, because bodybuilding is about building an aesthetic. So if you want to have nice round shoulders and the left side of your body's weaker, you're not going to do a lot of exercises where both hands are on a fixed thing like a barbell. You're going to do dumbbells so that you can work them independently. so that you can get the left side up to speed with the right. Or if you have posture where you're hunched over a lot, you're not going to do a ton of chest exercise. You're going to do more upper back exercise. So bodybuilding done right is corrective in its nature. You have four actually bodybuilding workouts. These are the same workouts that I do with my mom. It works. It's perfect. I have more of an hourglass shape doing these three workouts. And I say 3-4 because on your leg day, you're alternating between doing a squat pattern or a hinge pattern. So you have a upper body workout that's chest and a little bit of shoulders and triceps and abs. Then you have a lower body workout where 1 week you're doing a squat pattern, the next week you're doing a hinge pattern. Then you have your back workout that also includes abs and shoulders. So it really gives you some nice balance to build an aesthetic over time, aging like fine wine. So it's a really long-term game plan here. Then we have our energy work. So this is the brain and heart coherency breathing that you did on the replay on your own, that we did on pause. And this module tells you about it, about why it works, and then also a couple of guided meditations for you to use if you don't want to just set a timer on your phone. Your inner child module is so important because this is what's going to access the storage of your now body. Because your now body, especially in the 0 to 3, where your identity is formed on the unconscious level, you have things that you experienced either by the environment or by the psyche, the electromagnetic field of the caregivers, by the nervous system connection, and by physicality. So the inner child, you have several different modules because there are several things that we need to unpack. Some things we unpack just once so that we can get the information to apply to our North Node. Other things, you have a module to learn how to feel a trigger in your now body where you're upset about something and you want to eat or you want to ghost your workout. And instead of letting that happen, you're like, hang on, I'm having a moment. My body is feeling something and I don't know what it is. All I want to do is react. Ding, ding, ding. This is an inner child emotion. Okay, let me check in. And so there is a protocol that you do to connect with the younger part of yourself. It could be any age, could be an 11-year-old version of you. And the next time you get triggered, it's a 7-year-old version. None of that stuff matters. But there's a protocol that you get to, that I walk you through so that you can say, how old do I feel? What does this remind me of? So that you can pinpoint it. And when you're able to pinpoint it with practice, then it's like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I would feel this way. Oh yes, this emotion, this sadness that I'm feeling in this moment as a 43-year-old, it reminds me of this sadness. Oh yes, it makes sense. Okay. Because we don't need to run from our feelings. We just need to be present to them. And like I said, the goal of inner child work is to become present. It is not to constantly be doing inner work 24/7. And then finally, in the nurturing and pruning, we align with your astrology and your human design. So I shared with you a little bit about it from my perspective of my placements and how I work with this. It's the same thing that I teach in the modules. So you have modules that explain your Chiron, your Lilith. I show you how to find your placements. And a lot of these modules have Google Forms with them so that you fill in these items and it generates a spreadsheet for me. And then I have all your information organized. So it doesn't matter what type of program you're in, like this, like if you do the gamified, I'm still going to have a spreadsheet about you. So I value you just as much as if you were paying $1,500 a month. I'm going to know you and those initial intake forms. So you do the gamified where it's $49 a month and you win coaching. When you do the group coaching, it's $555 a month, and we have a weekly coaching call. And so with the gamified version, when you're interacting with the platform, your leaderboard is going up. And the top person every single month, the leaderboard drops down every single month. The top person gets to attend a group coaching call. So that's how you get some one-on-one connection. Otherwise, we'll just be coaching within the system, like a Facebook wall, Tuesday through Friday. When you're in the group, we have more hands-on because we're meeting every single week to check in, make sure everything's going right. If you are doing one-on-one, that means that we're in Telegram Tuesday through Friday, in addition to you coming to the weekly calls, if you want to come to the weekly group calls, and also in addition to the platform. And then you also get 2 coaching calls a month that are private. And you could do an exercise session with me, or we could have more conversation about what's going on in your inner work. And then the other thing that you can do is an intensive. With the intensive, you have an intake form so that I get a base information about you. I pull your charts and I create for you a plan so that you can have the transformation that you're looking for. 6 weeks after we have an hour and a half long Zoom call, we meet again for an hour and we tie up any loose ends. And so that's a really great way if you're like, I kind of want more than the gamified, but I don't know if I want to jump fully into doing a big monthly, container investment. So that's a really great way for you to figure out like or get that service and stuff. So if you are on the email list for the moon ceremonies, laurencercione.com/moon-ceremonies, you'll get these links. Oh, you'll get the PDF, and so then you can just click through on the links. But if you're watching the replay, you can see the links in the description of the video. Okay, so this is really awesome because this is part of how we are organizing the group coaching calls. So with the moons, we have our full moon that we just had on March 14th, and then here we are with the new moon on the 29th. And then we have the next full moon on April 12th. April 12th, 1861 is when the Civil War started. And then we have a new moon, blah, blah, blah. And so you can see, like, as I was saying, that where we have growth, and death periods. So after the full moons, we're shedding whatever is not needed. And so what happens in the PHAT Life with how it's organized, we are working in conjunction with the cosmos. And so for now, being March 29th, we're going to be growing. We're going to be focusing on, okay, like, what am I implementing? What is this identity that I'm embodying? And then eventually we're going to switch gears to be like, okay, what's the theme of the April 12th full moon? What am I going to be harvesting? What happened 6 months ago that I'm really looking at that is the culmination of something. And then after the 12th, there could be some sadness. There could be the release phase. And so then we're really going to be looking at, okay, what are we releasing? But also thinking about this new identity, what in that period are we releasing that does not fit the identity that we want to harvest in October? So it's really cool because this is such a next level container. Like, I thought it was next level already because of the inner child work and the brain and heart coherency breathing and the astrology and using eating and exercise as these manifestation practices. But now that I know this about the astrology and the moon and the egalitarian society, now we're actually going to be focusing all of those things that I just mentioned with the planets, with the moon. So we're going to have exponential growth and evolution together in the PHAT Life. This I wanted to show you. This is my Menses calendar. And All Snakes Day is also St. Patrick's Day, and it is the celebration of genocide in Ireland. And so I cried all day, and I spoke with Anthony Bruno, who is Lori Bruno's son, and they are the descendants of Giordano Bruno, who was in jail for 8 years with the Catholic Church and then murdered. He was hung upside down and burned at the stake. And the reason why is because he said that we're in a multi-universe. among other things. He could see the future, and at that time, if you had intuition and psychic ability, you were killed. And so I have connected with them recently, and I cried for about an hour on the phone with him, and he really helped me through a lot of stuff to understand, why am I feeling these things? What is coming up? What is real? What's the illusion? How do I navigate this? How do I not be so angry and sad? Because I was just so sad about everything that I was learning about war, hierarchy, and capitalism through the patriarchy. I wrote where I started my cycle, how I was feeling. I had one day that I felt really good. And then I felt like, okay, I'm ready for the change. Then I'm like, okay, I definitely feel like I'm changing, I'm changing, I'm changing, right? And here we are, the 29th. Um, hormonally, where I'm feeling that I'm changing. And when when I was writing this for my hormones, what I was really focused on is like, how was I feeling in my body? I was starting to feel energized, starting to feel that energetic shift. So I'm like, okay, because with diet and exercise with our menses cycle, we can go lesser calories when we're feeling better after our menstrual cycle. Like if you're still in your bleed and you're starting to feel better, that's when you can actually start to diet, because your hormones are in a really good place to withstand the stress of a calorie deficit. And so what happens when you change your food with how you're eating, then when you start to PMS, when your appetite increases, you can eat more and not feel guilty, because you've already been in a deficit and you're honoring the natural rhythms of your body. So I'm tracking my cycle within the moon also, because then you could even see an even bigger picture of an ebb and flow when the cycle lines up with the phases of the moon, which is like really cool. And so there is like another thing that I'm doing with the being the ancient woman is, and I'm really interested to see how this is going to transform my life, that the days of the ancient woman, if she did not grow a baby and she had her menstrual blood, she actually gave it back to the earth. So I've done that my last two menstrual cycles. I have this beautiful crystal bowl, and I use a cup, not a tampon, and so I can literally just like pour it in this little crystal bowl, and then I poured it into the earth, into the ground. And when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about like, wow, like the things that I learned about, like, our cells, how they're holding memory. I'm like, wow. So on a cellular level, I'm telling Mother Earth, part of matter, part of the one, that this is where this cosmic being is on the planet. So if my cells have the codes from my ancestors from the Fertile Crescent, they have my experiences, they have nutrition, and they have magnetism. I'm actually becoming more unified with the human experience on the earth plane. So I was like, okay, cool. Like all these like scientific boxes are getting checked of how is this going to actually create more of a cohesive resourced experience for my life? How am I going to become more abundant and more supported because I am having a deeper connection with the earth plane, with Mother Earth? The other thing is part of it's like, a lot of this stuff is mythology and mysticism. However, the problem with just saying the cosmos and the, Aries and Libra and Pisces, like the problem with saying that these are just about mythology is that it disassociates us from what could be real history. Because before there was written, there was oral tradition. And if you think about primordial energy, the energy that cannot be created or destroyed, the beginning energy, the archetypal energy that then influences how it is that we're thinking and feeling and acting, if early humans were early enough to be more energetic, what if the things that they communicated either with drawings on the caves or with talking about things or with telepathy, maybe even, those things could have all been true. So there's this aspect with the blood that in the egalitarian societies, the whole society revolved around the moon and around the menstrual cycle. And it was a gift to the mother. It was a ceremony. It was a ritual. And the menses blood was put on people's faces. And some men still drink menses blood today in uncolonized parts of the world. So when I was reading this, I was like, okay, so that's how like they did the period. And part of what they say about um, the patriarchy and why war is such a big part of it is that because we had one menstrual cycle at a time, one woman at a time that was giving her blood back for what was not used, right? We're not using our lining to house a new human. So instead of just wasting that nutritious blood that can grow life, we give it back. We say, thank you, Mother Earth, for giving us cows to eat and goats to eat and plants to eat. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you give us. Let me give this back to you. And so when that was taken out of society and actually made evil and unclean, the whole function of the menstrual cycle, the replacement had to be mass murder through war and bloodshed because of the mass taking from the earth. And so if you educate yourself about the patriarchy, we find out that when people were settled and farming and just creating, all different crops so that you had, you didn't exhaust the soil and you were in balance, you grew what you needed. When it became mechanic technology, when it became mechanized, I can't even say it. When it became mechanical, where there was a plethora of grain and grain storage, that became wealth, a sign of wealth. And then people would steal other people's grain. So now we have war. And so it's like we're in this extraction society that, going back to what I said of like, we can't just say all of this stuff is mythological and untrue because we don't actually know, since so much of that was destroyed by the patriarchal religions a la Yahweh in Deuteronomy, or it was passed on orally. So who's to say, right? Like, do we have mass war because we extract so much from the planet and we're not giving back? And I'm like, if I believe what I say I believe, and I don't like war, and I'm really upset that this religion was founded on genocide, and the last 1524 conjunction of Saturn and Neptune was at 0 degrees Aries, and that was genocide, submit to Christianity or die. If I believe what I say I believe, and I'm reading about this and the blood, then I have to give my blood back. And that's something that I talk about a lot with my mantra and my belief system, that went to check in with myself to make sure that I'm on my path. If I believe what I say I believe, then I have to take this action, even if it's scary and it doesn't really make sense, but I have to, because that's my aligned action. And we have to continually trust, a la intuition, we have to continually trust that taking aligned action, even if it's hard, even if it means that relationships break apart, lifestyle breaks apart, aligned action will always serve our soul. And this is karma work, especially with these big planets moving and what happened with hierarchies, capitalism, and war at different times that these planets were moving. This is our time of great change. And so I'm doing everything that I possibly can to be in alignment. Like, even I'm not wearing my watch, my Apple Watch, because I learned that I forget the root word, but basically and they still exist today, but when it started when this building was started, there was buildings that were started where there's like a center column where somebody can look out to make sure that everybody's working. And there were electronic devices to track the workers, schedule, making sure that they're working all day long. And I was like, wow, thinking about my watch, I'm like, I'm wearing this electronic tracker. And I already knew that there was tracking capability with it. But when I learned, like, I'm like, wow, like this thing that was oppressive has evolved into something that's like a social status thing to have an Apple Watch. And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna wear it anymore. So I still have it. I'm probably gonna get it turned off my service because I just don't think it's an alignment for me anymore to wear it. So there's things that you're going to be able to change in your life as you're creating this new identity that surprise you of what it is that you want to change. And it's so perfect, it's so amazing, and it feels a hell of a lot better than trying to force things the way I was doing a lot of stuff before, even with all the inner child work stuff that I have done. This last 2 months, even though it's been very difficult, the result of it feels way better. So that is your ceremony. Hope you enjoyed yourself. And if you want to come next month, go to laurencercione.com/moon-ceremonies.